This is my 14.2 6-week training program for Client 2. Before starting the process of designing my training program, I got my client to complete a PAR-Q and a few lifestyle questionnaires to find out how active they are during their job and whether they smoke, and what other forms of activity they do already. My client doesn't smoke, and he's got a fairly active job because he's a sports science teacher and a rugby coach. He completed a series of fitness tests for the 30-metre sprint test at 3.9 seconds, press-up test of 39 in 1 minute, and the Cooper run 2.1 kilometres in 12 minutes. This has helped me to determine what he wants to achieve and the targets that I can set for him. The importance of a warm-up is to make sure that the muscles are warmed up and the heart rate's raised, and that the muscles are stretched out ready for the activity. The warm-up needs to consist of a pulse raiser for about 40% of the heart rate threshold, static and dynamic stretching, especially after my client has been through ACL reconstruction, because he has damaged his ACL, so he needs to make sure that all his muscles and ligaments are stretched out. A warm-up also needs to be sport specific, or muscle group specific. It needs to possibly involve some drills, some resistance activation, maybe some low intensity steady state, especially immediately after the operation that my client is undertaking. Cool down needs to consist of dynamic stretches and static stretches to make sure that they are stretched out after exercise so they're not all tense, and a low intensity cardiovascular work about roughly 35% of the heart rate threshold. So it's not too intense, but it's enough to keep the muscles warm but cool them down slowly. My client would like to build up the muscular strength in the legs and improve cardiovascular fitness alongside through interval and continuous training. My client would like to do interval and continuous training because they're his preferred methods of training, especially after his knee operation, which my program will be. He'll be using my program after his knee operation. I do not recommend weight exercises or heavy weight exercises at first anyway. He's 45 and he weighs 13 and a half stone, and he's 6'1". So for week 1, it's very, very low intensity and very, very low impact and resistance because it's only week 1 after the operation. So for Monday, I've suggested he does swimming within about 60% of his heart rate with a float between the legs. This is really good for engaging the leg muscles, especially building the strength back up after the operation, and to do 20 lengths. So make sure that the legs are not under pressure. That's why swimming's most advised, because it makes your body buoyant. So the pressure's off all of the muscles. On Tuesday is a rest day because my client can't train on the Tuesday and Thursday and Sunday because they're his days that he works or has time with his children, because he has a very busy life. So on Wednesday I've said just walking for 20 minutes, make sure there's no hike, not very fast, and no impact or resistance. Not heavy footed on concrete, because that would really impact the pressures on the knee. Friday, swimming for 30 minutes. I've chosen this because it's then developing the swimming skills without the float to build up the strength in the first week, and then slow stretches that may have been suggested by his physio, or if not, just calf stretches, quadricep stretches and knee stretches. On Saturday, 6 rehabilitation exercises, which are on this slide. So my client can pick any of these for his rehabilitation. So either a hamstring contraction to build up the strength in the knee, or straightening leg raises, or buttock tucks. Hamstring stretch should be done after every session, especially on the knee that is been operated on. And any one of these, or these ones, can be used at this time of the week. And make sure there's a cool down and more stretching after the rehabilitation exercises, so the muscles aren't put pressure on. Next week, 7 rehabilitation exercises to make sure that, to really reinforce that strength, and maybe even put a light swim in that day, or a walk, low intensity steady state, so there's no pressure on the muscles or the joints. Tuesday is a rest day, and Wednesday I've advised him to do a 30-minute cycle to build up his cardio, which he said he wanted to improve, and also to build up the strength in his legs. Rehabilitation stretches to help with the development and the rebuild of the muscle should be done pretty much every day, even if it's just one, but I've set specific days every couple of days to make sure that they're getting done for definite. On the Friday, swimming for 20 minutes with float between the knees, and then 10 minutes without the float to also build up that strength again, as well as not putting too much pressure on the muscles, but still working the cardio to keep his body fit, ready for when he does more cardio exercises later on in the program. Saturday is rehabilitation day, so any of these exercises can be done for that, or any physio exercises. And then Sunday's rest day. So week 3, all rehabilitation exercises needs to be, the intensity is kind of going up another step in week 3. So all the rehabilitation exercises need to be done on this day, as well as dynamic stretches. So walking from a certain distance, lunging out slowly, and then squatting and walking, and then squatting and walking all along from one distance to another. Not very long, just a short distance. High knees from the 2 distances, and then a light jog back to make sure that these muscles are cooling down after the rehabilitation. The stretching is also advised before doing the exercises, just very, very brief, holding them for 8 to 10 seconds before doing the exercises. On the Tuesday is a rest day, and then on Wednesday we're going to do some more cardio. So cycling for 10 to 15 minutes on a static bike to help reduce the risk of injury. So instead of going out on a bike and possibly putting yourself at risk of falling over off the bike, that's why I've said on a static bike. We'll probably do that for the first 4 or 5 weeks. And then on the 6th week, maybe we'll go on to road bikes, and then normal stretches in the second half or afterwards. Thursday's a rest day, and Friday, a gentle jog for 20 minutes on a soft surface, mainly to reduce that impact and the pressure of as your foot hits the floor. It can put a lot of tension on the knee joints. And for stretches, can use any of the rehabilitation ones or any other leg stretches for that matter. On Saturday, just a walk for 45 minutes, just round the field or round by the roads or anywhere, just to really build up the time, so cardio and building up the power, the strength in the muscles of the legs. And then dynamic stretches, slow and controlled lunges, squats, high knees, and then a light jog back, like on Monday. So week 4, I've suggested a light 30-minute cycle, so no high gears or any resistance, and then 3 rehabilitation exercises, just to help with the cool down, and then some stretches at the end. Wednesday, rehabilitation day, so all the rehabilitation exercises need to be done on this day to really make sure that the strength is built up, and either do more of them or if they're becoming easier, then make sure the technique is properly right. And on the Thursday is a rest day. Friday, I've suggested to do a 45-minute walk and 4 rehab exercises. And Saturday, a 30-minute light jog on any surface. So this is them building up the strength on any surface. Although generally running on a hard surface can wear away the bones and can actually weaken the bones. But as long as it's light jog and not a fast, and it's only for 30 minutes, then it shouldn't do too much damage. And then finish that off with dynamic stretches after that. Week 5, I've suggested to do a swim for 20 minutes and a cycle for 20 minutes and a walk for 20 minutes, just to build up that, the hour of exercise, but changing different exercises so that the client doesn't get bored, to reduce tedium. Dynamic stretches and static stretches should also be really helpful after that, to make sure the muscles are warmed down. Tuesday is a rest day, and Wednesday to do rehab exercises, and like any rehab exercises that you feel that you're either struggling with, or personally review how you think you're doing and work it alongside that. And then a 40-minute cycle, but outside on the bike, because there's all the different surfaces and you can go at your own speed and not at a machine speed, which is really helpful. On Thursday, it's a rest day. Friday, a light 30-minute run, so it's not a really intense day, it's just a bit of a light run to make sure that the muscles are being used and built up strength again. And then Saturday, rest, but I've put another rest day, but just to do a 10-minute cycle on a static bike, just to make sure that the movement and the ligaments and everything is still working. Week 6 is the last week, so I've upped it to 5-kilometer light run. If this is too intense, then go at your own pace, but this is what I've set for my client, because even though they've had a ACL injury, they still are relatively fit and healthy, so they should be able to continue once the strength in the legs have been built back up again through continuous and interval training. And then 5 rehabilitation exercises to help with the knee joint, a 10-minute cycle on the Wednesday and a 30-minute jog, and 7 rehab exercises plus 20 squats and lunges, normal, not dynamic, just 20 squats and 20 lunges to help build up that strength. Always thinking about building up that strength in the legs. On the Thursday is a rest day, and then Friday, sprints on the bike and running on the running machine for as long as you feel is necessary. Dynamic, and then PNF stretching. This helps with making sure that the muscles are stretched, and it also helps with flexibility. So if the muscles in the ligaments in the knee joint are very tight or very weak, then this can help to build up that pliability of the ligament. On the Saturday, 30 lengths in the swimming pool and a 30-minute run, and along with some dynamic stretches and some rehabilitation exercises, which are on here again. So any of these can be used. And that is the end of my 6-week training program.